Just going over the film in 2025 top 10 list because I think it says a lot about film in 2025 to go over the top 10 highest grossing movies of the year. So, the highest grossing movie of the year is an animated movie from China called Xena 2, which is a sequel to Xena. Makes sense. It made $2.2 billion. A lot of that in China. I think it did come out in the US, but obviously a lot of its money was made in China. Zootopia 2 is the second highest grossing movie of the year and climbing. Well, it's not going to climb any higher than 1, but it's still making money at $1.7 billion. I'm going to point out that Zootopia 2 is obviously the sequel to a popular animated movie from Disney. That it's been enough time that people would show up for the second one. It also did like stupidly well in China. I think it may have even outgrossed in China than higher than the United States. I don't know why China likes the Zootopia franchise so much, but I guess they do, and it made a whole bunch of money there. Avatar Fire and Ash comes in at 3. It's still climbing. Obviously, it's not going to get higher than Zootopia 2. I'm going to talk about this in a different video, but $1.3 billion is great for a movie. It's maybe a little concerning for an Avatar movie because those movies cost a whole lot and you kind of need them to make a whole lot of money in order to justify spending that much on them in the future. Number 4 is Lilo and Stitch, the live-action remake at over $1 billion. That means that the only American-produced movies in the top 10 list are all Disney at 2, 3, and 4. They also had a lot of flops this year, but we'll talk about that in a different video, or we did talk about it in a different video, depending on when I post this. Number 5 is a Minecraft movie. It didn't crack $1 billion, but $958 million is nothing to sneeze at these days. Number 6, Jurassic World Rebirth, $869 million. Number 7, Demon Slayer Infinity Castle. It also has a Japanese name that I won't butcher the pronunciation of, at $778 million. That actually outgrosses, I believe, the Demon Slayer movie that was number 1 at the box office the pandemic year. I don't know if you've ever seen Demon Slayer, but I've watched a little bit of it with Camera Woman. She's seen more, but really interesting art style with that anime, and it has been very, very successful both in I imagine manga form, but also anime and in anime TV show and as movies as well. So that might have been supposedly the last Demon Slayer movie, but don't quote me on that. $778 million is like a whole bunch of money, right? And obviously it didn't get the majority of that in the United States, but that's a lot. That is a Japanese production making a whole bunch of money. More than number 8, How to Train Your Dragon, a live action remake of the animated series, $636 million. Number 9 is F1. That did like kind of bad in the US. So I was a little shocked to realize that it made $631 million, which we'll get to in a different topic. Number 10 was Superman at $616 million. It did pretty well in the US, and I think maybe not as good worldwide as they would have wanted to. But that's the top 10 list, right? What's interesting to me about that is about this list is it really shows the change in business and how important movie business is in America or the North American market versus the rest of the world. The top 2 movies have obvious Chinese ticket sales adding to their success. Obviously, Xena 2, I'm going to guess the majority of its ticket sales were in China. And Zootopia 2 is obviously very, very successful. There's also other movies on this list that were either produced by a non-North American company like Demon Slayer, or were heavily reliant on forced box office numbers like F1, and Jurassic World actually did pretty well worldwide, so a lot of its success came from that. So you see a lot of things that are like more affected by foreign box office or even foreign production companies than what has been on the past. It's definitely a thing. I think it'll probably still continue to be a thing unless they make movies that people will go to the movie theaters to watch. Superman was the only hero movie on the top 10 list this year. Marvel had 3 movies. I'm sure they would have wanted for any or all of them to be on the top 10 list for the year, but none of them were. None of them cracked 550 million. I'm not even sure all of them made money this year. That's not a good sign for Marvel. That's not a good sign for superhero movies in general. That's something that used to consistently gross $1 billion, just kind of like doesn't make half that. People are obviously sick of it. There was no Spider-Man movie this year. Spider-Man's usually a pretty consistent box office draw. Um, so maybe the next Spider-Man movie will make a difference. There wasn't a named Avengers movie, but that's coming next year. We'll see if it'll get there. Uh, I do think DC has a chance to regain some interest. Superman obviously was a top 10 grosser. It's probably a big test for the studio and James Gunn and people's interest in his movie making and his leadership. So obviously there's a bunch of chances that DC movies in the future could fail, but the first one doing pretty well is a good sign. The rest of the list has a lot of nostalgia on it, right? You got 2 live-action remakes of animated movies in Zootopia, or sorry, in Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon. You got another Jurassic World movie. You got a Minecraft movie for that 2010s nostalgia or whenever it came out. Five Nights at Freddy's and Wicked was sort of a nostalgia grab as well. Neither of those movies did as well as they probably would have wanted to. You kind of The only thing that really pops off the page as something new and successful and exciting is Sinners. It's not on the top 10 list worldwide. It is on the top 10 list for US box office. And people liked it. People talked about it. I didn't see it, but uh, I certainly saw coverage of it. I saw a kill count video on it. Like, it seems like the kind of movie that they don't make enough of. They don't allow people to make enough of. They don't take a chance on it enough of. And frankly, like, a lot of the things they think are sure bets at this point are kind of risks anyway. Like, you're putting all this money into the 36th superhero movie in this franchise and it doesn't do well, and you're like, okay, well, how much worse can it get? Maybe let people make movies they want to make a little bit more often. Hopefully, we see more successes like Sinners in the next few years. Not saying horror. I'm just saying people making the movies that they want to make and people making movies that people want to see that are original and meaningful.